Okay, now we're live. So for today's vocabulary, today we're talking about Citizen M and Blue Ocean strategy. So on page 2, number 1, to outdo each other. So when you're trying to outdo someone or outdo the other person, that means you're basically in direct competition with each other to try to, it's almost like you're in direct competition to do the same thing but better than the other person, right? So probably the most classic example is maybe like a couple of guys who are friends who are trying to outdo each other to impress the same girl, right? Kind of a never-ending story. The same can be for any kind of, if you're talking about like a market where there are a lot of companies that have basically the same kind of product, they're always trying to outdo each other, Apple versus Samsung, for example, always trying to outdo each other for a smartphone or, something. Anyways, number 2. Number 2 is bland. So when something is bland, that means it's just kind of really boring, has no specific taste or trait or character. You might, you might turn on the TV and see like a TV show that maybe it's like a guy just maybe he's traveling and exploring. There's a lot of TV shows now where like people are traveling and exploring, and some have some really kind of interesting catch or hook to it. And then once in a while you'll see a really bland one. It's just a guy kind of walking around and doing nothing. It might not seem kind of specific in any way. It might be kind of boring. If you go to a restaurant with your friends, and let's say the difference between like going to a restaurant with your friends is and then going to a restaurant for like a date might be that a restaurant you take your friends to can be pretty bland sometimes. It can just be any restaurant. Whereas if you go on a date, you can't really take someone to a bland restaurant. It has to be somewhere kind of nice, has atmosphere and stuff. Bland food, food that has like no taste to it. Sometimes, you might have a friend that cooks kind of very bland. They don't put any salt or any spices in their food, and they like it that way. Some people like bland food. So bland in general gets associated with being kind of just nothing special. Number 3, AAA. AAA is sometimes used to describe or to rate the quality of something. Is very high quality, right? The highest possible quality. A lot of reviewers recommended this restaurant because their service was AAA. The location of this hotel is AAA. Sometimes if you I don't know about here in Korea specifically, but we have like for example, in the US we have like Yelp or something, and if you want to rate like a restaurant or their service, you would just talk about what was good and bad. If you were just kind of blown away by how good they were, then people would say, "Wow, this is like the best, like triple A." It's better than saying like number one. Number one's just sort of saying like this is like the leader in something, but saying it's triple A is like saying this is top quality. Number 4, aesthetics. This is one of my favorite words when considering like travel or restaurants or coffee shops, anything like that. Aesthetics is just sort of like the kind of general idea or thought or philosophy around what's kind of the appreciation of beauty and art, nature. One of my favorite experiences traveling was actually in Tokyo. I ran into some kind of really beautiful cafe kind of luxury shop, and it was aesthetically beautiful. Like looking at it made me feel pleased. Also, like the example of Genesis, the Genesis brand, the car brand, they strive to harmonize luxury with aesthetics, right? Number 5, aggravator. So the root word to aggravate, right, or aggravating. So someone or something that is kind of annoying, disagreeable, just makes things worse. You don't want it around. Turkey's lira crisis was another aggravator in the decline of emerging markets. Today it's the Indian rupee, yeah, rupee, the Indian rupee is now a new aggravator for the decline in emerging markets. So meaning that they are causing emerging markets to go down. Number 6, sense of pride. Just the kind of feeling in yourself, right? Your own accomplishment, your own pride, your own dignity, especially concerning your work. If you have a kind of pride in what kind of work you do, especially if you do something really well, or you have a kind of niche or specialty at something, you have a kind of sense of pride about it, right? It's not just like any work. I mean, if you just kind of wrote up a report and said, okay, here, I'm done, probably you don't really have any sense of pride about it. But if you wrote up a report that had like some very useful information that saved your company millions of dollars or made your company millions of dollars, then maybe you might have some sense of pride about it, or if if you get a lot of great feedback about something, that also adds to the sense of pride you might have. Number 7, to roll out, which is to kind of start or launch a new service or product. So we have 2 examples here. I just realized. Okay. Politicians, right now we're in the midterm elections in the US, so we're expecting politicians to roll out some new media campaigns against each other. And those are your vocabulary for today.